From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Thursday, August 27th, 2015. Silver is trading at $14.21 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,124 per ounce. And according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $228. Antiwar.com reports after several days of fighting, the Taliban have made another major gain in the Helmand province, capturing the strategically important Musa Qala district and forcing the Afghan troops who were defending it into retreat. This is the latest of several districts seized in the recent weeks. Taliban forces had seized the adjacent Nawazad district last week and moved into Musa Qala over the weekend. NATO responded by deploying troops of its own into the area to help the Afghan military, which was initially captured from the Taliban in 2007 and had been held ever since. District Governor Mohammed Sharif, who also fled Musa Qala Wednesday, blamed the losses on the lack of reinforcements from the Afghan government, saying they'd been calling for more troops for days and none showed up. The district gives the Taliban yet more control over the Helmand province and the lucrative opium trade in the area. Helmand is one of several provinces the Taliban had tried to make new gains on since their spring offensives, and while NATO had praised the Afghan military for holding up relatively well against all of those offensives, in many cases they are just losing the territory at a slower rate. This has been spun as progress, but in the long run the Afghan military is still losing ground, a fact which appears to be driving NATO back into more direct military roles of their own. NATO could not beat the Taliban in its own 14 years of fighting, but seems contented to try to get back to a stalemate. For over 35 years, Robertson Roberts has been a trusted source for buying and selling your investment-grade precious metals. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and permanently removed the minimum purchase order for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Robertson Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on investing and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 850-478-5270 or online at rrbi.co. UPI reports James Holmes, convicted and sentenced in the 2012 fatal shooting that left 12 dead and dozens injured in a Colorado movie theater, was sentenced to 3,318 years in prison on top of 12 life sentences. Holmes stood silent in the Arapahoe County courtroom as Judge Carlos Zamora Jr. handed down the final sentence in the case that has dragged out over 3 years. A defense attorney said earlier in the week that Holmes will not appeal the conviction or the sentence. Last month, the jury convicted Holmes of 24 counts of murder, 2 for each of his victims. The jury could not agree on the death penalty, so he received 12 life sentences. This recent hearing was held to address his sentence for the other convictions, attempted murder and explosives possession. In a statement after reading the sentences, Zamora explained his decision, saying it is almost impossible to comprehend how a human being is capable of such acts and filled with such intense anger, hatred, and revenge. When her plush and comfy life suddenly and unexpectedly fell apart, Brooke and her dog Cloud set out to defy the odds. If this is a man's world, as they say, living on the streets is no place for a young woman. One day she awoke in the redwood forest and realized she had become a hobo, and would ultimately come to know exactly what it means to survive. How to Be a Hobo by Brooke Willett is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. Reuters reports an activist group seeking to override the Nebraska legislature's abolition of the death penalty submitted nearly 3 times as many signatures as was needed on Wednesday to put the question to voters in 2016. Nebraska, in May, became the first Republican-dominated state in more than 40 years to abolish capital punishment when state legislators overrode Governor Pete Ricketts' veto. The death penalty repeal is scheduled to take effect on August 30th. Ricketts, a Republican, has called capital punishment a deterrent and supports the referendum effort. Nebraskans for the death penalty turned in almost 167,000 signatures supporting putting the issue of capital punishment to voters. The group needs 57,000 valid signatures to meet the 5% level needed to put the issue to a vote in the next general election, and 114,000 to reach a 10% level that would suspend the legislature's decision pending the vote. County officials have 40 days to verify the signatures after they receive the petitions. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.